Working.
Hello.
Okay, I think we're back up and working there.
You're back up working. Okay, you got on the other unit.
Perfect. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you very much. So we didn't say anything. I just froze till you start. So there is a way you can speed up production of GANS material. Is the GANS, as we said, is when the material itself, which is in the center, changes to, if you look at it, this is the copper in a matter state. You nano coated it, it became black. And now you put it in the salt, the nano atomic structure which was connected to the matter now releases itself. What you're going to get at the bottom of your pot is something like this. You're going to get very much, what you're going to get at the bottom is like this, dots of green. So you have the water on the top, and you have your GANS material at the bottom. There are different things to do. If your current is too high, for example, you go to 2.5 amp, 1.5 amp and 2.5 volts, your copper will look this color. It won't look green. No, the copper will be about this color. It's a copperish color, but it won't be green. It's still a GANS material. But you made the speed of change so much. When it's green, it's copper oxide. When it's plastic color, brown, copper color, you see you have a copper, CuO, or O2. This is green. If you do a fast rate, there it comes, the master is here. I'm going to show it to you. If you want, you can come to see it. This is a copper nano coated and a zinc. And here in the bottom, we are collecting CO2. It's white. With a copper, if you connect it to a plate and a current, then it's copper oxide. If it's a high rate, it's a copper in the GANS state itself. It's the color of copper. If you increase the rate very high, it goes black. But it still is copper content, but in a different combination. So you get three different colors, but at the end is all GANS. You can use copper and zinc to get CO2, but try to take your time. You understand what I'm talking about in a very short time. If you leave your copper oxide, which has gone very fast by conversion of the copper, it is brown copper, brownish copper at the beginning, and after a couple of days, you see the material changes to green, oxidizes. So you see the conversion. Sometimes happens to the black. So what you see, try to get into oxidization level, not just to create copper all the time, as the GANS state, single atomic plasma. The reason being is when you come to use what you're producing for your system, power ratio of the plasma comes into play. Copper is 59, 60, something in that region. But if you oxidize it, now it's 59 plus 32. That gives you 5. That gives you 95. You see the difference? It's the difference, if you understand, between this tolerol and this tolerol. You have a stronger plasma. And a stronger plasma is what you're looking for, if you remember yesterday's teaching. So try to do it slow, try to go into oxidization, try to make a mixture of ganses. Mix copper oxide. If you put in your system where you have this copper oxide, as it is, a copper plate, nano-coated, and a zinc, and if you put a piece of iron in it, you start getting blood. You get hemoglobin. Do not use hemoglobin or red blood in your system. What you see, if you can come close with your cameras, you see what I'm talking about. Is there any way you want to have a look? Fabio, do you want to come and have a look close? If you look, we've got two cameras here. On the top, you have a fat layer. This is what I said to you yesterday. Can you see the fat? Or do you want me to come close to you? Because live stream is important. They see it the other way, and the satellite will go a different way. If you see this fat on the top, this is what becomes oil later on. This is, if it comes in interaction with the iron, becomes hemoglobin, and then becomes a human life in a way or form, animal red blood. If it comes in
Mr.
mixture,
Keshe, just hold it there while he focuses in, please.
yeah. If you see this fat, this is how life started on this planet. For the first time, we can prove there was no Adam and Eve. The start of the life starts with amino acid, which is sitting on the top, but just putting a copper plate and a zinc. Zinc is the emotional part of the body of a man. Copper is the physicality of the man. And then when you put iron in it, it becomes red hemoglobin, and that's how life has started. So when we explained to you yesterday that oil will never finish, now you see the beginning of the oil industry. All of you, when you make these plates, you will see this. And then what you're actually interested in, I forgot to show you, is at the bottom, which is the CO2. None of you has ever seen, or most of you, CO2 in a solid state. But now, with the development of plasma technology, you can hold, hang on, and play with CO2 even as a paste. If you've been to our teachings, most probably you've done yourself. And if what I explained, you can add iron to this fat or amino acid. If you look at the bottom of here, you see blood. This is one of the process the camera can take. At the bottom, you see the redness of the blood. That's how life started. That's a copper oxide. It comes with a zinc, and you can see the red blood. This has been tested. I'll go on the camera for our live stream that you can see, where we produce, I have produced liters of blood by using iron. You can see the difference. It's just in the shade there. So when you add iron to the amino acid, hemoglobin is created. So now we understand the essence of the creation, how it has been developed. But in your system, you try to get mixture of everything. Because when it comes to produce energy, in the next step, you need a soup of GANs. When you collect these at the bottom, you get a syringe, you extract it, you put it on under a heater to dry it from liquid. What do? You extract this part, you put it on a plate, you let it dry, or you dry it with a lamp and dries much faster. It took me ages to dry one. And Armand said, oh, it's easier to do. Just a light, heating light, and it dries it in a couple of hours, and by morning you have the right paste. So you need, oh yes, you have to wash the salt out. But when you extract it, I forgot one place, the other guru reminds me, you have to wash the salt out because you created this in a salt condition. Wash, put some, what do you call it, distilled water in your mixture when you extract it, 2 or 3 times, let it settle, take the top water out, and then you have a pure GANS. Then dry your GANS not to a paste yet, but to a liquidish, like a running soup, but not like more, not liquid, but in a pasty liquid. Pardon? Pardon? Like a stew. That's the word I was looking for. Getting old, even forget food, it means there is no need for it anymore. So you put, what you do, you put your GANS materials. I go through this again, but if you go on the Keshe Foundation website, they're everywhere. You know how to make it. A lot of people have made it. So now you nano coated what we've seen with Richard. You made the nano coating of your material. If I can find the box of nano coating, we put the plasmas aside there. So now you made your nano coated springs the way we saw. Then what you need to do, you get this stew, thin soup, which you made, has to be very running but not thick. You fill it up into the bottom of your container, and all you do, very, very gently, you get hold of your rings, and you just put your rings, nano-coated rings, inside it, and just shake it till it gets fully covered with the soup. You take it out, and you just let it dry. It has to dry totally. It's not black anymore. It has the color of your soup. You need it. This soup is the GANS. Now, the most important part of the whole operation is this soup. If you put your nano-coat material together, you get nothing. You see, it does not work. Now, with the soup, you have attached the sun to it, the energy unit to it. The secret is putting the GANS as a soup back on the spring, on the nano coating. Now the soup, the GANS of the soup becomes everlasting supply to already superconductor layer here. You created this superconductor layer by nano coating, and now you bring the soup back. You put the GANS in a liquid state that it can attach itself to this material, and then what happens here, these layers of superconductors will carry the energy of the plasma back into the superconductor level because it's a matter state, or if you make it strong enough, into the copper as a AC feed. So now you understand that's the simplicity. That's been the part of the breakthrough in the technology. Without this, if you put these together, 2 nano-coated material will give you nothing. Once you put it through the soup and you let it dry, if it's not totally dry, you will get a big bangs because now you have water molecules, which when you put the energy of the current through it, they just explode, they evaporate. So when you've done this coating, you washed your springs, and then you let it dry totally. Absolutely, it has to be dry. Even if it takes 2 days, you have to let it dry. If you hang it, it dries properly. And then you have the first basis for the next step to start absorbing the energy of the plasma into superconducting layers which you already created. In the future, when we develop the technology further, as I explained to you, we will take the copper out in a specific way that the nano layer stays. Because don't forget, this nano material is connected to this. If you take it out the wrong way, then you destroy the base, your nano coating disappears because it's connected to it. It has to be done in a specific way that you can empty literally this tube of all its content. And then what you're going to get is a hollow superconductor magnetic field plasma flow system. This has been the dream of communication specialists. Because now what happens, don't forget, each one of these is a plasma. If you look at the bottom of this pipe, what you have is a beautiful, let me change the color because I think then you understand it. I'm going to take these away from here. I'm going to take this away. I'm going to do this that you can see. That's the end of the green tube. The green tube, the copper pipe is here. This is your, you will have your nano coating. If I can follow it like this, very slow. Then you already have, can you move this up please? Then you have the GANs on it. You just gotta move it down somewhere. Yeah, just move it out of the way. It's okay, that's good. Thanks very much. So now you have this. When you empty this, when you empty this copper of matter state, this is solid. If this is looking at end of this copper wire. Now you nano coated it, is this, the black one, and then you added the GANs, thick GANs to it. It has to be like whitewash. You know, if you ever put the chalk in the water to cover the windows that nobody can see in, it's called a whitewash. The thickness has to be that kind, that it sticks to the nanomaterial. Don't forget the GANs is trying to repel the nanomaterial itself. It's a magnetic field holding. You have to create a paste that it holds on to. So the beauty with this is, if I can take this away, that you understand, there's a little bit of a mistake here. So now, if we take empty, hollow this, if I can do it this way, if we make this hollow, you see what happens. You have central environment which is surrounded by plasmas. Here, it's a pure, in this region, a pure superconductive plasma condition without any matter state, hollow, better than fiberglass. Zero time loss of information. Because plasma, total magnetic, superimposing another plasma, total magnetic, central free, surrounded by plasmas. This has been the dream of physicists in the world of material. A superconductor at no cost. In a way, if you take a hollow tube, copper tube, you get the same effect. You can transfer information at zero time anywhere on this planet. And if you can tube it the right way, is, if you understand how it works, Zero-time transportation, communication, anywhere across the universe, because nothing is lost. So you see, as part of the development, a breakthrough even in the world of communication. All it is, you have a tube. If I have a tube here, you can see it. You have this. This is the spring, nano-coated, GaNs-coated. There is nothing in the center of the spring. The center is superconductor transportation of anything you need, even energy you can cross over. All you need to do for physical application, you can put a plastic coating on it if you like. This is million times more effective, carry more information than any fiberglass at the moment used for communication. Zero loss. You can do the same thing with your energies. You can transport megawatts and gigawatts through these little narrow holes because it's a superconductor, zero time loss, and is protected fully by a plasma magnetic field with no loss because the two layers will protect themselves. So now you understand what is the next step for you in your process. So what you're going to end up with is this. You know, you've been to these things, they said there is one I made before. This is one I made before, but it was in caustic in there. I didn't see it, but it doesn't matter. This is a unit which has been through the process. I'm gonna get a tissue paper here. You don't get any drips. So this has been through what you call a whitewash. This is a system where the wires have been nano-coated. I open it that you can see. Two ends, and when you look, you see it's a very, very dusty white wash. This is your power supply. This is the oil fields of the universe. You don't need to mind. I come close for you to see it. It's a very, very fine dust on it. And this is what you call the GaNs material. Without this, you'll find out the system doesn't work because you cannot work when there is no fuel. You want to take a picture that way from it. You made the tools. Now, with producing the GaNs, you fuel the system. This is the backbone of the technology. This is the breakthrough, part of which you've been waiting for. Without it, it does not work because, as my grandmother used to say, if you haven't had breakfast, you expect to understand the school? There is nothing in there. She meant the stomach. You can't work without the fuel. So this is the secret to the whole package. The GaNs, which we produce, I explained to you again how you make this powder, this liquid. It has to be fully saturated. You let it dry. If you are not happy with it, you don't think it's been done good enough, when it's dried, do it the second time. There is no hurry. This is what I said to somebody recently. Man has been waiting for this for millions of years. Take your time. 1 or 2 days does not make much difference, but do it correctly. What you need to make this paste is a copper wire, if you nano-coated it, or a copper piece of plate, and a zinc to create a CO2. This is what you see at the bottom here. Or you put 2 copper plates, or you put 2 zinc, 1 nano-coated, 1 non-nano-coated, and you create as many different type of gases. That what it is, you got to understand now why I put this formula on the top. Here is 95. Plasmatic magnetic field strength. Here is 59. You can see the gradient of the field strength. where the energy flows inwards. That's why if you just produce copper, you won't get that good result, because then it's 59 against 59, maybe some oxidization. But when you make sure you have a mixture, even if you can make a composite GaNs, that this goes to 200, 250, you get a better power supply, because there's more energy can come out of the system. Some of you say, I made a system, it didn't work, there was something wrong with it. You don't understand the work of the plasma, that you need plasma gradient. It's a difference between this plasma and this plasma. That's the only difference. So you want to work with this, and then you blame it doesn't work because you missed the big boy. When you add, you allow, even if you can make these things of a heavier element, if you can make these of the heavier element, go to above copper, go for heavier materials, go even for plutonium, go for uranium. I'll teach you what that comes to. Is not radioactive. Non-radioactive plutonium is part of your life. You all carry part of it in your body, even though you think, what? We all are the most effective nuclear power stations we call the human body. Without it, we don't exist. So look for very heavy metals, nanocoat them. They'll be nanocoated a slightly different way, because you need a high temperature to create a what they call nanocoating. And then coat your copper line with that. You find 200 to 59 is a big difference. The gradient is much, much bigger. The more powerful system. Then you see how your system is going to be powered when we come to the next step. So your homework yesterday was to make the coils. And from the coils, some of you have already managed to come to the nanomaterial. Today's homework is try to make as much GaNs as you can, that this GaNs, why we call it a GaNs, is gas in nano state, because you evaporate it at the point of gas state of the matter in a singularity of a nano, it becomes atomic structure of itself in a plasma state, what we call a GaNs. Gases in the nano state. That's where the technology comes from. We call it the GaNs, because when you heat it, it doesn't melt. It goes so fast on the top layer in a vapor condition to escape. But what it does, the magnetic field of the copper itself pulls it back. And then because it's separated in a nano state as a gas, then it appears as a nanomaterial going back on its own. That's how it's created. So the terminology of the GaNs means gas in nano state. So when you put a GaNs layer on this, the bigger difference than the inside, the higher gradient, the better powerful systems you can create. My call goes to the national governments who have nuclear reactor power stations, and they were worried. There's still a salvation for using the plutonium and uranium in the power stations once you shut them down to create new condition for energy and agriculture. That part, I'll show you how to do it. That's what I've been trained for as a nuclear physicist, and this is part which applies only to the governments. And there is a huge way that present nuclear power stations can be shut down. They have to be shut down because the problem will be huge with them with this new technology. But the materials, even in the cladding of the fuel rods, can be used in a very effective way for space travel in a very short time. This is something which in coming time we share with national governments. Normal people don't have access to this kind of technology and knowledge. So now you understand your homework for tomorrow. Yesterday you made the coils. Your job by tomorrow is to give it a clothing.